The Mavericks land at number 2 in the NBA draft lottery. Is it Dylan Harper, or should they target an all-star guard to surround Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving? On today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm going to get a city like that.
Dogs, all of us, all five.
You are Locked On Mavs, your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Still can't leave me alone.
Your team every day.
Gotta be born with it. Dog gut.
You are Locked On the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Isaac. I'm one of your co-hosts. Covered the Mavs for the last 10 years alongside Nick Angstead. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen of the day. Go make Locked On NBA Big Board your second listen of the day. Listen of the day. It's NBA draft season. If you're a true Mavs fan, you already signed up for our Locked On Mavs Insider text program. Guys, we do all the latest news and Q&As and all the stuff. Text it straight to your phone, so make sure you do that. You can do that by subscribing to the QR code on the bottom of your screen if you're watching on YouTube, or it's in the podcast description if you're on audio. Guys, I'm back. I took off the last week of the podcast. I was in Europe. Shout out to all of our listeners. I have a newfound respect. I tweeted this out when I was there, or whatever you call it on X now. I was like, man, I just have a whole new respect for NBA fans, for Mavs fans of our podcast. And you know, you always hear, especially being in America, covering in the NBA and being a fan of the NBA, you always hear, you know, about the time difference. But like everything, once you experience it, it's completely different. And the amount of times I'm going to sleep at night, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and it's like pregame for some of these, for the first playoff game. And I would wake up in the next morning and both playoff games would be done from the night before. And just so much respect for all of you who have followed the Mavericks, follow the NBA, that are not on Eastern, Central, even Pacific time zone or Mountain West, like all this stuff. And it's just the fact that so many of you all are waking up at insane hours in the morning, or 2-3 o'clock in the morning, just to watch the NBA. Shout out to you, and so much respect. Just getting a small taste of it for a week. As an American. So there's your American goes to Europe. Thoughts on that. Actually, I'll share a few more thoughts at the very end of this podcast on my time over in Europe, and just some takeaways so y'all can laugh at me with it being my first time, and all of that. Guys, the NBA draft lottery is next week, May 12th. The Mavericks, we need some luck. All right. We need it. If there's ever a time for Adam Silver to, I don't know, rig the lottery balls, freeze the envelope, something for the Mavs, it's now. So, and it's a really good draft. It's a fun draft. And yesterday, Nick dropped an episode on what if the Mavericks land at number 1 and they get the chance to draft Cooper Flagg? What do they do? I'm going to tell you right now, you take Cooper Flagg. There's no thoughts about it. Yeah, I mean, I just don't think. Are you going to get Wemby for the first pick? No, like you're not going to get one of those A+ superstars for the first pick there. And there's not very many people I would take over Cooper Flagg right now. Like, you just take Cooper Flagg and be done with it. But what if the Mavericks land at number 2? So the draft lottery obviously is next week. Like I said, the Mavericks have the 11th best odds after winning the tiebreaker there with the Chicago Bulls. And they're most likely going to land at 11, which is still a good pick. I think there's a solid player that they can get that's going to play for them, be in the rotation, and all the stuff at 11. We have so much more draft content to come. I did a lot of draft stuff on the plane, by the way. I'm so excited for the draft. But what if they land at number 2? And they have a couple different options if they land at 2. So if you've looked at any type of draft, big boards, mock drafts, or anything, you see one name at number 2. It's Dylan Harper from Rutgers. And obviously Cooper Flagg's on everyone's top spot on their big boards in mock drafts. And pretty much, I mean, I've yet to find one. I mean, you could send me one. I will say a reliable one that does not have Dylan Harper at number 2. It's one of those drafts that you have 1 and 2 locked in, right? It is Cooper Flag, Dylan Harper for almost every single person that I trust for the most part in the NBA draft world. It is that. I went searching too. I was like, I want somebody to give me Ace Bailey or Edgecombe or somebody that is at 2 above Harper. Even before I started diving into Dylan Harper stuff, parachuting in as one of those guys, and really just going through all the numbers and all the, eye test stuff, watching some games, different stuff. I was like, all right, I really want to try to be edgy and find somebody else that's not Dylan Harper to put at the number 2 slot. And I just couldn't. It's Dylan Harper. I mean, like all the smart people who cover the draft, it's much better than that, than doing this, than Nick and myself at draft stuff. They all have Dylan Harper, and it's for a reason. He's a really, really good player. So if you land at number 2, and we're all going nuts, and we have a Locked On Mavs episode firing right up after they land a number 2 pick, and we're all freaking out, going crazy. They can either draft Dylan Harper, like most people will probably mock them to do. Do you entertain someone else, like a VJ Edgecombe or an Ace Bailey? Edgecombe from Baylor, Bailey from Rutgers, teammate of Dylan Harper. Or do you try to look to like trade down? Is there a team, a little bit further down at number 10, and you're like, all right, can we pick up another win now player? Maybe could we pick up a couple shots at it for a young player to add to this core? Do you try to entertain that? Or then the last thing I'll talk about today before my Europe takeaways is, do you listen to trade offers? What player out there could you realistically see that a team could offer and say, hey, would you be interested in taking this player for the number 2 pick, which is most likely Dylan Harper? Is there a team out there that says, you know what, where we're at as a team, we don't really have a young young star cornerstone player, and they try to overpay to go up and get Dylan Harper? Or is it a team that's looking to reset their point guard spot and say, all right, let's try to reset this. We want Dylan Harper to be our young point guard for the next 10 to 15 years. Let's talk about Dylan Harper, because I think there's a very, very, very good case that if the Dallas Mavericks land at number 2 on draft lottery night, you just take Dylan Harper and be done with it. Dylan Harper's 19 years old. Yes, he is the son of Ron Harper back in the Chicago Bulls days with Michael Jordan. Also the Cavs days and all of that, but son of Ron Harper, obviously his brother, Ron Harper Jr. is, I think he's still in the league playing for Toronto. But Dylan Harper, I mean, this guy is, if you've been following any type of recruiting stuff back in high school basketball, then you've heard about Dylan Harper for a while. It's the Cooper Flag draft, but you've heard about Dylan Harper. And what's crazy is you look at this draft class, and I always love to follow draft classes from high school into college and then into the NBA at the very beginning of their careers, to see how much it changes, to see, you see like a guy like Jaden Hardy, who's one of the top, draft prospects in high school, coming into the college world. And then he goes to G League route, and then he falls to the, second round of in the NBA, and just seeing how the prospects in high school, how it changes as it goes to 1 year of college, or maybe multiple years into the NBA draft, and see how that changes. For the most part, and for this class, after 1 year of college, it's the same guys. Like the top 5 guys in ESPN's top 100 that went into college: Cooper Flag, Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, VJ Edgecombe, and then Trey Johnson, which Trey Johnson's moved around a little bit on some people's mocks. And now going into the NBA draft, it's pretty much those guys too at the top. So that part's been pretty cool. It's stayed pretty consistent as far as how people feel about them. But like I said, like everybody has Dylan Harper at number 2. He turned down Duke. He turned down Kansas. He turned down Indiana, Auburn, and chose Rutgers to go be the starting point guard there. And obviously Ace Bailey went there too. So they get these top 3 recruits in the country, arguably 2 and 3 after Cooper Flag. And they go to Rutgers. And now you have this 19-year-old point guard is a 6'6" point guard, 6'10", 6'11", depending on who you talk to, where you read, wingspan at the point guard spot. That just is one of those incredible point guards that's going to be in the NBA for a very, very long time, that does so many things that you love at the point guard spot And in addition, that it's not just, hey man, he's like the ideal type of point guard, but he's 6'6" and he has the wingspan. So he has the size and everything. He's pretty much everything you want in a point guard coming into the NBA. And some team is going to take him, and he's going to be a really, really good player for the next decade. And can that be the Dallas Mavericks? I don't know. I want to talk a little bit more about Harper coming up and talk about some of his strengths, how he could fit in Dallas, but also a few of his weaknesses too that I'm like, there's a little question mark here and there, and maybe make the case. Let's talk about some comps and stuff of some players in the league he reminds me of and how he would fit in Dallas, because I think he would change a lot of Dallas's future if they had a chance to draft him and to let him tutor under Kyrie Irving. Let's take a break. This podcast is brought to you by our friends at Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need, maybe for a plumber or a service provider. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? No, you didn't wait. You got on Google and kept on going. You moved on. That's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system built to streamlining and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. Open Phone lets you manage business calls and texts from a single app. And guys, you can even have a shared inbox. It's a game changer. Your team, you can have your whole team have a shared inbox. They could jump in at any conversation instantly without missing a beat. Open Phone is offering our listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's openphone.com/lockedonnba. And if you're existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, let's keep talking about Dylan Harper. Let me say this real quick, though. I don't know what Nick is doing when I'm gone, but he dropped this episode, and he had to rage bait so many of you guys with these titles. All right, we've had conversation about some of the titles, but he had the ultimate title the other day, the ultimate thumbnail that he threw up there. Nico is right. I'm like, what is going on? I leave for a week and you've already switched up. And no, I've had some fun with it, and he's had some fun with some of the feedback from it too, and everything. So go listen to that episode. Don't just look at the thumbnail and be like, whoa, what's happening? Actually, see what the episode is about before you start throwing haymakers at him. Don't mess up his hair, by the way. His hair's perfect. Dylan Harper, speaking of perfect, he's a really, really good point guard, 19 years old. That's going to be coming into the league. One of some of my favorite things about him is when you have your point guard in the NBA, you want him to be able to get into the paint and get to the basket. Not just for a scoring purpose, but you need him getting to the paint, get 2 feet in the paint. You hear that a lot. It's like, oh man, he can get 2 feet in the paint. That just means if you can get into the paint, then you know an extra defender is closing in on you. Therefore, your open shooter is going to be there. That's one of the things with this playmaking. You start looking at his assist numbers and some of the stuff, and this is where it's hard to translate college to the NBA at times, because the NBA, you're going to have so many shooters around you. There's a little bit difference of having Klay Thompson on the wing compared to some random guy at Rutgers besides an Ace Bailey. So I think his assist numbers, I think his playmaking and stuff is going to go up. I have no concerns about playmaking and all of that. He can get into the paint. You start looking at his finishing numbers. So he's not like he's a lefty, but he's not like a Westbrook, Derrick Rose. You sometimes, I think we think of a 6'6" point guard, and you're like, dude, explosive athlete, is this crazy? He's so big, he plays above the rim. He's not that. That's not the case for him. He throws it down, like he has some dunks and stuff that you're like, wow, that's really impressive. But he doesn't have that Westbrook, I don't know who really does, type of explosion for his size. But his finishing numbers around the rim, if you just look at his finishing numbers, you might think that he is a Westbrook, Derrick Rose type, and you're like, dude, he's just dunking on everybody. Not the case at all. He has better finishing numbers around the basket. I mean, you're talking like a 68% conversion rate around the basket. Early in the season, it was like a crazy 80%. He just has a way to contort his body and his balance and his hips and everything to just, I mean, it's some weird angles, but the dude, and I know that there's a small percentage for the Mavericks to land at number 2, but I'm like just thinking of the thought of him learning even more from a Kyrie Irving about how to finish in the paint, especially playing more below the rim, is just like, I'm like, oh, come on, like sign me up for that. He's incredible at running pick and roll. If you're a point guard going to the NBA, you have to be able to run the pick and roll. Like, I mean, it's whatever team feels like you see it ran 1,000 times per game. You got to be able to run the pick and roll. He can run the pick and roll. Obviously, Dallas has guys right now, Dereck Lively, Daniel Gafford, that can run the pick and roll really well. He would fit on all of those things. The thing about him that I'm a little hesitant on is the pull up shooting stuff. Not saying he's a bad shooter or all the stuff, but as a lefty, I love the form, which I will admit, I fall into the trap a lot of times of thinking that every left-handed like jump shot is beautiful. I'm not lefty, but I don't know if it's just like I'm jealous of the people who get to shoot the ball left-handed, and I just think it looks awesome every time they shoot it. I don't know. Maybe that's weird. Y'all can call me weird if that's the case. But I feel like, and I think, and even talking to people, like the form isn't an issue. Like I think the form and everything, the release point's a little low. Like it's a little set shot ish. But there's plenty of players in the league that have low releases, and it's perfectly fine. It's nothing. Yeah, I'm not. You're nitpicking if that's your thing about it. I don't know. Dylan Harper release point pretty low. No, he's incredible. But you look at some of his pull-up threes under 30%, some of his pull-up jump shots, even 2-pointers. Some of the numbers and stuff is a little shaky with that. 33% on the season from 3 in general, 75% from the free throw line. Sometimes you look at free throw percentage, and that's kind of your like your tell of what a player could be. If they shoot low percentage from 3, but they shoot a high percentage from the free throw line, you're like, all right, it's there. Sometimes that translates out, or if it's vice versa, you're like, all right, little worried. That's never going to come if you don't have good free throw numbers, but decent free throw numbers. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know some of the numbers aren't incredible when it comes to the shooting. I'm just not worried about it at all. I think the shooting's going to be there. I think he's going to be able to play off ball, especially with his size. And I love the form. I love everything with that. And I think he's a win now type of player. Like, I think if he got drafted by Dallas, I think he comes in and he plays right away. He might not start because you're trying to sign Kyrie Irving. It doesn't change anything, in my opinion, about what you do with Kyrie Irving this summer. You still hand him a big time contract, but maybe Dylan Harper is your 6th man. He's the ultimate type of like 6th man guy you bring off the bench, and you are, investing in him and everything. He's learning under Kyrie. It just sign me up for that. I would be so happy. So what's some like comps for him? Once again, I try not to be too lazy with it and just go with like left-handed players. You're like, Brunson, De'Aaron Fox. What? You start naming all the left-handed players out there, but it's more of like, hey, there's a trait I like about a player, but then there's another trait about that comp that I'm like, no, that really doesn't fit him either. So you look at like a Jalen Brunson, but he's more explosive than a Jalen Brunson. You look at like a De'Aaron Fox, and there's different things about Fox's game that I think comps well to him, but he's not as explosive as Fox. You look at like a Damian Lillard, who there's different parts of Dame's game and some of the, I don't know, just some of his drives to the basket and finishing and just some of his moves. I'm like, oh man, it feels like you're a little fluid like Dame, but Dame's a better scorer. Like Dame's an incredible all-time type of scorer. Then you look at like the size of like a Halliburton, and I'm like, all right, which I just saw the Halliburton game winner a little bit ago. But like you look at the size of Halliburton, but I'd say Halliburton has better playmaking, but he has the size of him. Then I'm like bigger Mike Conley. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I think Cade Cunningham is like the closest type of player to him. I think Cade's a little bit bigger though, a couple inches taller. But if I had to pick one player, I think it's a Cade Cunningham that he reminds me of. But he's kind of like the combo of all the other players. And then when you get into like, hey, should they entertain anybody else? A VJ, I think it's just two players. I think it's Edgecombe or Ace Bailey. And I'll be honest, I don't know what to do with Ace Bailey right now. And I feel like no matter, like, you talk to different people that's in the draft world, opinions vary. Almost all of them have in the top 5, but it's like one side of you that's like, man, you have such a high ceiling, because if it hits a guy at 6'10", I mean, some of the stuff that, you know, people can send you, or even just get on YouTube and search Ace Bailey highlights from last season. You're going to see some shots at his size at 6'9", 6'10", that you're like, dude, that's insane. Like, nobody can guard that. No one's taking shots like that and making shots like that. But then there's a lot of other things about his game. I'm like, dude, are you locked in right now? I just don't know what to do with him. He's very difficult, but I totally get it. If someone takes him super high and you're like, dude, I mean, a dude that can score at 6'10" like that, sign me up. And then you look at VJ Edgecombe, and I love him. I think I'm going to have him at number 3, just on my, you know, personal big board. His athleticism is just absolutely unreal. I think he's a little bit better than what we've seen at Baylor, even though he had a good season at Baylor. And obviously we have some connections with Baylor that just been texting about just the type of player he is and everything. Of course, just raving about him as a kid, as a player, and his competitiveness and everything. Watched a lot of his Bahama Olympic, or not Olympic game stuff, national team stuff when he's playing with Eric Gordon, DeAndre Ayton, and those guys. And I mean, he looks like an NBAer out there with all the other NBAers. So I like him a lot. I just don't think he's at the level of a Dylan Harper. So I think it's Dylan Harper there at the number 2 slot. Let's take another quick break, and then let's talk some trades, and then I'll end the episode with some Europe thoughts and all that.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right. Let's do this. Insert ad break music. Which, speaking of that, guys, I'm getting a soundboard. I'm excited. Y'all are not ready for the first episode that comes. It's not here yet, but when Nick and I both have soundboards and I just have random drops that he doesn't know about, I'm so ready. All right, some trades. All right, they land at number 2. Are there some trade down scenarios? Some of you are yelling at me right now in the comments saying, no, there's no way. You just take Harper and be done with it. I think I agree. What if San Antonio calls you? They have the 6th pick or 8th pick, and then they have the 13th pick. What if San Antonio calls you and says, hey, we'll give you one of our young players that's not Castle. Let's say it's Vassell, 8 and 13. 2 lottery picks plus Vassell to move up to number 2. And for them, they're like, hey, we want to pair Fox and Dylan Harper, 2 lefties to go with Wemby and Stephon Castle. They probably don't do that. Because they're probably looking for wings and stuff and not another guard. But do you think about it if you're Dallas? I think you think about it, but I think I would just take Harper. If Brooklyn's sitting there, they got the 6th pick, all right? They're desperate for anybody to be the next cornerstone for their franchise, okay? So they're dying. I mean, they would love to finish, or the ping pong balls to be right for them so they could be up there, get a Cooper Flag, get a Dylan Harper. Let's say they don't. And then what if they're sitting there at the 6th pick and they call up Dallas at number 2 and they say, just, hey, what's it going to take? How many future first round picks is it going to take for us to move up from 6 to 2? And then you're walking away with it from saying like, hey, we get the 6th pick. You could get like a Trey Johnson, or, I mean, your pick of that next group of players at number 6. And then you get, I don't know, 2 other first attached with it, because they have some other extra first round picks and stuff. I don't know. Thinking about it, I think I would just take Harper because I think Harper's that good. What if, same kind of scenario, what if Houston calls? Houston has Phoenix's pick, which is the 9th pick. What if Houston calls and says, hey, we'll give you one of our young stud pieces with the 9th pick to move up to number 2? Let's say they call and say, hey, we'll give you Jabari and number 9 to move up to 2. We'll give you Tari Eason, Cam Whitmore. We'll give you Jalen Green. I don't know. I know the stock's like super low right now. He has the big extension. Jalen Green and 9 to move up to 2. I don't know what excites you all through that. There's probably some combination of a Houston thing that I would definitely be listening to for sure. But man, I like Harper, but I would be listening. Houston's the one I would listen to a lot. And you say like, hey, why would Houston do that? It's like, I don't know, they're consolidating some, and then you're actually thinking about having Dylan Harper with Şengün or whoever they trade for and all the stuff. Are there some players around the league? Like I said at the very beginning, if teams are looking at it saying, hey, we just want some type of we want to trade for a young cornerstone point guard of the future, or it's a team that has a guard out there that's like, hey, we kind of want to reset the spot, get Dylan Harper in here and let him run our team for a while. So let's I came up with a list of teams that I'm like, I think I know for sure would be calling, or Dallas would be calling, and could they have some type of thoughts behind it? Let's just talk through some of this out. Atlanta's probably going to call and say, hey, Trae Young, do y'all want to, can we get Dylan Harper for Trae Young? Let us reset this thing. Dallas probably says no. Does Indiana call? Indiana, now some of these teams, it's more about money because Indiana is not a luxury tax team. They don't pay it, and they have some massive salaries coming up with Halliburton, Siakam, probably going to try to re-sign Miles Turner. They're going to have to get rid of somebody. So do they say, hey, Nembhard, Mathurin, and pick 23 and something else to move up to 2 to get Dylan Harper? I don't know. I don't think I could see that. Is Memphis offering Ja Morant for number 2? And does Dallas listen? I'll just let y'all decide on that one. Brooklyn, I think Brooklyn would do anything to get a Dylan Harper or Cooper Flag. Would you take LaMelo for number 2 if Charlotte's like, hey, we're kind of done with this experiment and we'd rather just like reset this thing and give us Dylan Harper? You can have LaMelo. LaMelo and Kyrie. LaMelo and Patrick Dumont. Is there 2 opposite human beings on earth? What's another one? Orlando Magic calls and says, hey, we kind of really want a point guard. We're kind of done with this. Jalen Suggs, we love him. We gave him the extension. He just got hurt. We need a guy who can score a little bit more. What if they offer Franz Wagner straight up for number 2? Franz Wagner for Dylan Harper at number 2. I think I'm listening. Is that... Am I in the wrong there for listening to Franz Wagner for 2 for Dylan Harper? I'm having the meeting about that one. I've been on this for a while, but I think if Boston does lose at some point, that's not the finals, or heck, maybe even the finals. At some point, they got to make a decision. They can't pay everybody, and they have 1 million people under contract. And what if they do decide to ship off the $60 million man in Jaylen Brown? I've been about this, that I think Dallas would go after him. Honestly, think they should go after him to pair him with Kyrie and Anthony Davis. And is that your way to go get him? And it's a Dylan Harper back to Boston. Dylan Harper's way cheaper on that rookie contract than Jaylen Brown is. But Jaylen Brown's a better player now. Then the last one I think would be, this is the only one I think I'm 100% in on, and I would do this now. I mean, outside of Giannis and all of that. I think if Phoenix is like Devin Booker for Dylan Harper, and that's tough because, the Kardashian Pez dispenser has been a thing for me in all the rivalries and everything, but I would listen on a Devin Booker trade with that, because pairing Devin Booker with Kyrie and Anthony Davis and this core here in Dallas right now for the next couple of years, which we know, and this is all because, and I'm saying that because of the timeline that Nico is kind of throwing out there of this like 2 to 3 years here. If there wasn't any 2 to 3 year timeline for them and how they're constructing this roster, you just take Dylan Harper and you don't listen to any offers, because I think Harper is that good. And I think ultimately, when it's all said and done with all these different trades and everything, I think if Dallas lands at number 2 on NBA draft lottery night, I'm very, very, very confident that you just take Dylan Harper and say be done with it. Unless some crazy trade offer comes through that you just can't ignore, or it's just like something insane. I think you take Dylan Harper. He's your bridge of the gap into the future too, outside of the Nico timeline. But he's good enough now to help you win, to help Kyrie and AD and these guys win and stuff too. And I think just him playing underneath Kyrie would just be incredible. And awesome pairing. They could play together and all this stuff. I would love it. I would be ecstatic if they could get Dylan Harper in the NBA draft. I think that's the route you go at too. We're going to do a pod, I think, tomorrow on if they land at 3. And then that's where I think it gets really interesting with Edgecombe and Bailey and trade options and all the stuff from there. All right, let's talk about Europe for a second. My first time, this little American here, first time going to Europe, dropped in there in Germany, and then spent last week pretty much a whole week in Romania, in Timișoara and Arad. And I loved Romania. Guys, it's just beautiful. I love every bit of it. Just an incredible experience in all the stuff. And yeah, so here's some thoughts from a new American setting foot in Europe. I guess like tobacco, like in cancer and everything, just the stats from that hasn't across the pond, because smoking is still as hot as ever. And I mean, it was like we sat down at restaurants and the ashtray hits the table like chips and salsa in a Tex-Mex restaurant in Dallas. All right. And like, it's just a no-brainer. I haven't seen people like in Texas, or I mean, I feel like when I was a kid, people smoked a lot, cigarettes and stuff a lot. And it's like now it's like, hey, if people smoke, it's like it's not cigarettes. But in Europe, I mean, y'all are just down in the darts like it's nothing right now. So yeah, I mean, even in the airport, a Camel smoking lounge, I'm like, all right, we're doing this thing. What's another thing? Y'all can get my rookie American here takes. Ice. I love ice in my drinks. And it took me a bit to get used to asking for ice in my drinks. I just really like really cold drinks. And there was just so many times where it's just like, here's your water. And it's just blank water. Like, hey, is there a way I can get a few cubes in there? Is it possible? I think this one, I mean, this is just so small-minded for Americans, but I think Americans lose the mindset or lose the perspective of just how young America is. That when you start, I mean, obviously somebody who's grown up in America my whole life and reading, you know, the history books and our school system and everything, you know, it's predominantly about America and how, you know, just American history. You learn a little bit about world history, but just the concept of like, oh yeah, well, this building, you know, it's been here since 1282 or something. It's like, whoa, like it's like 500 years before our country was born. And so yeah, that's I think it's just a reminder, once again, something that you learn and you know, but then you're like in it and just how people are talking, you're like, well, dang, like that's a good reminder there. I think a good reminder for all Americans that the world doesn't evolve around America. So what's another thing? I mean, had a lot of great conversations about laws in America compared to Europe, especially gun laws. And what's another one? Coffee. I mean, coffee's fun. Where I was at in Romania, I mean, they had coffee like it was like getting a drink at a water fountain. All right. They might as well just install water fountains for coffee, because it was like, hey, all right, cool, we're going to do this. Then we're going to get coffee. So then we're going to drive there. And do you want to get coffee? It's like, I just finished coffee. And it's like, all right, cool. Well, we just hung out at this friend's house and that friend's making coffee. And then on the way home, do you want to stop and get a cup of coffee? I'm like, can I stay hydrated with coffee? I don't know. And then lastly, I was pretty close to Slovenia. And I brought up Luka a few times. And just a lot of people loved Luka. And it just hurt my heart again, because then there's one thing to get jokes in America. There's another thing to get jokes in Europe. How does it feel? Y'all traded him. I'm like, y'all didn't. I didn't trade him. So I was a half a world away. Still getting reminded about how dumb the Luka trade was. Guys, we'll be back tomorrow. Nick and myself. Hopefully you enjoyed. Y'all can be roasting me in the comments about how I'm an American rookie in Europe. I have so many thoughts about my time in Europe. I loved it over there. I can't wait to go back. I want to go back ASAP. So anybody who wants to host me in Slovenia or anywhere in Europe, hit me up. I'm down to come over now. I'm excited. I'm ready. All right, we'll be back tomorrow talking about more draft stuff, more NBA stuff, and Rolando Blackman representing the Mavs at the NBA draft lottery. Yeah. See you tomorrow. Peace out. Boom.